Well, today is a pretty exciting day because after almost 9 months of waiting, the solar guys are here. So actually the very first thing they have to do is get up on the roof and see if they can get the snow and the ice off. So may or may not get the install done today. I'm hoping anyways, because we've been waiting and waiting for a long time to get this done. Anyways, these guys seem to know what they're doing, so we give them a couple shovels. They're going to go up there. I'm going to fly the drone and see what happens. These are the brackets that go on the roof that hold the rails on. They got these real sticky pads on the bottom that help seal so that when they drive the screws in, we don't get any leaks in the roof. So they got a box of those, and then they got microinverters in there, cables. Rails are coming. Oh, the back of their truck is really full of stuff. Whew, these guys are well equipped, and they're up there right now getting their safety gear on and giving them some brushes and some shovels, and they're going to try and take the snow and the ice off the roof. Surprisingly, even though they spent most of the time getting rid of the snow in the house today, they actually did get some rails up. So happy about that, but they still got a lot more work to do. They got to come back for another day. Well, it's day 2, and guess what? The guys are back today. I was actually surprised. They were working really late last night, until about 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock at night. They had their headlights on their heads, and they really did us a solid. They managed to get pretty much all of the racking in place, and surprisingly enough, I thought they were going to reschedule for next week to come back, but hey, they're here today, and they're going to finish up the electrical so that they can take the pictures that they need, pass electrical inspection, and then the next step is installing the solar panels, and then final activation. Hopefully it won't take too long. This is called a combiner. They take two strings of the panels. They have to go into one unit, and then from there it goes into a disconnect. And then it will go down inside the house, connect to the panel, and then it back feeds into the grid. That's where the conduit's going to come out. He measured correctly, about 2 inches away. But we're getting towards the end of this project. The electrician's here hooking up the solar panel system to disconnect switch, combiner box, not in that order, but anyways, yeah, solar panels, combiner box, disconnect switch, and then into the house and then to the panel. And then we just need a final inspection, and then we're ready to switch on the system. Well, today's final inspection day. The electrician is here to look at the panel and the outside panels. We're just waiting for the utility inspector to come in to sign off, and then we're good to go. Matter of fact, we have actually been producing solar power, exporting it to the grid, but we're not getting paid for it at this point. But anyways, that's what the sign off is to do today, is to make sure everything is good, and then they just change the software on their end and we start getting credits for solar that we generate. I had done a previous video here on installing an energy monitor. This is an Emporia View 2, and you can see here these little white things. Those are called current transformers, and you clip them onto the circuits that you want to monitor, and then with an app on your phone or on your computer, you can see how much energy that you're consuming. In my case, I have input from solar coming in this way, so you put two of them on there and you flip them the opposite direction so it senses current coming in. And then on the app, and I'll show you here in a video shortly on how that's monitored. So it monitors the incoming power from the solar system, and then that back feeds into the grid. Well, I just wanted to give you an update. We passed inspection. I didn't want to film the guys because, you know, privacy stuff. Anyways, yeah, so we're good to go, and he's just buttoning up all the panels and everything, and he's on his way, and then, well, you can hear him doing this thing right now, and then they're going to commission the system, and then we start getting paid for our solar, so awesome. So let me sit down, and I'll go over the size of our system and all the specifics, and yeah, we'll fill you in on what the system's like. All right, so I thought I'd take a few minutes here and we're going to discuss the solar system that we have installed. So I have some notes here in front of me, so I'm going to give you all the details and then we'll talk about cost as well. All right, so what we have is a 14.88 kilowatt system, call it 15 if you will, just rounding numbers up. It consists of 32 VSUN 465 watt bifacial panels, and they're all black. Aesthetics, right? That kind of mattered. Let's see here. It has a 30-year production warranty. By the way, solar panels do degrade over time, but at the end of the warranty period, I think they're supposed to still be able to offer somewhere around 80% of their production value. So it's not like they go in the garbage. They just produce a little bit less energy. Let's see here. They have a 25-year structural warranty. Now, our system is using microinverters. There's two types of solar power inverter systems. You can get what's called a string inverter, where all of the panels go into a single inverter. We opted for microinverters. There's advantages and disadvantages for both. I'll talk about that here in a second. So what we have here are 8 Hoya Miles HM series inverter. They have a 25-year warranty. And the way these inverters work is that each inverter, we have 8 of them, as I said, take 4 panels. Let's talk about inverters very quickly. As I mentioned, there's 2 types of inverters. You have microinverters and then you have a string inverter. String inverters are single box, so it's a single point of failure, if you will. However, they're generally installed either inside or outside the house. So if anything ever fails on the inverter, well, you have a single point where you can do repairs on and you don't have to touch the solar panels on the roof. The downside, of course, is that if you lose the inverter, well, your whole system goes down. We opted for microinverters, and I think, like I said, there's 2 schools of thought. We like the idea of the microinverters because I can monitor them individually, and if one of them goes out, then we're only losing 4 panels. The downside, however, is that because they're mounted underneath the panels, if there's any kind of repairs or replacement, it could potentially cost you a little bit more because now the labor has to go in terms of taking some of the panels off to get at the inverters. So pluses and minuses on both sides. So the system is wired into 2 strings. So so we have 2 strings coming off of the system. So 4 inverters and then 4 inverters, and that goes into a combiner, which takes both of those strings, puts them together. Then it goes into an external cutoff switch. That's required by code, and then that goes into our panel, and that back feeds through a 60 amp breaker. We can monitor the performance of each one of the microinverters through an app or a website thing. I'll show you that here shortly. Then we can drill down right down to the panel level. Now you can't do that with a string inverter because it has no concept of what's on the roof in terms of how many panels or anything like that. Data geeks like me really appreciate that kind of thing because I can drill down. And again, I'll log into the site and I'll show you that here shortly. So all in all, we're happy with the system. It's installed. The guys really did a great job. The only downside, of course, for us is really that it took a long time from signing the contract in July of last year for them to start working on this. It was almost 9 months. After that, we had to wait a couple of weeks for a final hookup and then an inspection. So if you're going to do a solar system install, I would highly recommend that you take into account potential delays, because if you live in a place like us where we have winter to contend with, that can push things along down the road if there's any kind of weather delays. And that's exactly what happened to us. Now let's talk about price. Before I talk about this, I want to make a caveat or sort of a note that our prices are not necessarily the same everywhere. Every system is different. Every jurisdiction or geographical area is different. So when I tell you the prices of this system, take it as kind of like a guide. But again, get several quotes. Our system could be more expensive than what you're looking at. It could be cheaper. I don't know, but I'm just laying out what we spent on this system. As it stands right now, our invoice for this was $37,051.20. That works out to be $2.49 per watt of installed. I think that's kind of the average. And then we, let's see here, we qualify for a Solar Homes energy credit, a rebate, if you will, from the province. We're in Nova Scotia, so we qualify for the maximum, which is $3,000. That's $300 per kilowatt, if I remember correctly. Beyond that, you don't get any more. So our system is almost 15, so we maxed out on the credit on that. So anyways, if you deduct $3,000 from that, you're at $34,000 for the system. Again, plus taxes and stuff. However, one of the nice things about our system here in Canada, I don't know where it is anywhere else, but we have a Greener Homes program loan system. So that what that does is that gives us a 10-year interest-free loan up to $40,000. So we took advantage of that, and we just told the company, it says, put the maximum we can on the system, because our house, quite honestly, uses a lot of energy only because of the fact that we have a electric hot water boiler that runs the radiant heat in the house. That consumes a lot of energy. Everything else on the house, like I can pull up the app here and I can show you that at idle, our house runs maybe about 550 watts. Doesn't use any energy at all. So during the day, when we're not heating the house in the winter months, of course in the summer months we generate tons of energy, we're feeding tons and tons and tons in the grid. That gives us credits that we can pull against when the colder months roll around. So for us, in a lot of ways, starting our solar system in terms of credits now in the month of March is actually advantageous, because we get to build up those credits going into the summer months. So when the winter comes around, we can start using those. Nothing worse than going into the winter months when you're not generating a lot of energy, but you're producing a lot, and then you end up with big bills. So anyways, we'll see how it plays out. Anyway, so let's sit down at the computer and I'll show you some of the data that we can pull off of the system. I think it's pretty interesting. So I have a couple tabs open, so let's explore a couple of different ways that I have to monitor not only solar production, but also consumption in our house. The first one here is the Emporia View. I mentioned this earlier in the video that there's a little white box, and inside of there, there's another little device, and it can monitor up to 16 different circuits. So I have a couple of them on the mains of the house, so it can look at total consumption. And then I have a variety of different circuits here that we're monitoring. So things like the utility room, the garage, say the fridge, the freezer, my Tesla charger, and then the one that's labeled here is boiler. That's the one for the in-floor radiant heat. This is the one that consumes the most energy. I'll get to that here in a second. Up here, it shows net production. So our solar system current transformers are hooked up to those two legs, currently producing just over 9 kilowatts. This website right now, I have it set to live right now, so the granularity is every 2 seconds. So it's a kind of update. So I can actually flip a switch here in the house, and you'll notice here that consumption will go up. As I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video, at idle, our house sits at about 550 watts, 600 watts. So we're generating just over 9,000. So 94% of the solar production right now is actually being credited to us. It's actually going up to the grid. In the evening, when the solar goes down to zero, this changes to consumption. So, these numbers here will change. What's neat about this Emporia View here is I actually can click on, say, graphs. Actually, let me go back here for a second. I can actually click, say, the utility room, and I can go and show, say, consumption, say, over a week or a day or a month. And in my case, actually, I have over a year's worth of data now, so I can actually go back and click on practically any month, and I can see how much energy that particular circuit has used. I'm going to scare you here because I'm going to show you my boiler. Right now, it's not heating the house or anything like that. But if I go to a day, you can see here the boiler ran, if I just look at this gray line here, and I just put this over to the left here. So on March 13th, which is today upon this recording, it used 96 kilowatt hours. Yes, that's how much it uses. It's pretty crazy. Matter of fact, I can go over each week, and you can see here on average and how much it uses. So yeah, it adds up. And now you understand why we want to offset a lot of this here with solar. So anyways, like I said, while we're sitting here not doing anything, it doesn't use much energy at all. Anyway, so this one's quite interesting because you have some granularity, and you can click on different things. So it's pretty neat to be able to go through and actually see how much energy. And you can see here here in this case here it's a freezer. You can see there's a clear cycling that goes on. It lays dormant for just a little while, and then it kicks in. Same thing happens with fridges. Actually, let me go back to today, and if I click on solar, you can see. So if I back up, yesterday it went live for the first time. So we generated somewhere around 50 kilowatts yesterday. And clicking on each one of these bars shows you. I had a dropout because once the inspection was done and then technician came out and installed the net monitor, that's when we started seeing it here. So you can see here 10 a.m. and then somewhere around here in the peak here at 2 p.m. that was 10 kilowatt hours. But today, if I go over, we should be pretty close, if not exceeding it. We're pretty close right now. The day's not even over at this point. So yeah, got a good, clear, sunny day today. So you can see here, it really starts kicking in sort of between 7 and 8 a.m. That's when it starts ramping up. And of course, here midday, we get the good sun. All right, so that's the Emporia View. The other one here is another tab, and this is the S-Miles cloud. This is the one that allows me to look at the data right down to the panel level as well as the microinverters. So this is sort of the control panel. Once you log in, you can see here that we're currently generating 9.56 kilowatts. I don't know what the granularity of this. I think the technician told me it's every few minutes or something like that. I can force an update. And let's see if that pulls up. Yeah, okay. I don't know how often that is, but anyways, it just sits there. So you can see here how much energy we've generated. It's over 50 kilowatts today. And with the current utility rate now, we generate about $9.27. Power ratio, 62.3. Capacity, of course, there's 14.88. And then down here, you can see a sort of a graph. You can go like that, and you can see how much energy that you've used. Shading or something like that. And then, of course, daily production as of yesterday was 51.2. Go back over here and pick another day. So I'm sorry, I only have 2 days worth of data. This will change over time, so it'd be pretty interesting to be able to monitor this. At any point, I can actually click on this and save it as an image or save it out as a CSV file so I can stick it in Excel. And then up here, I can click on layout, and this is quite neat. So right now I can show you the physical map. So it shows you right now as it stands what the panels are generating on an individual basis. So I can click on any one of these panels and it'll pull up all the data, including serial numbers, temperature, and all that fun stuff. So right now we're in full sun. Now I also have a timeline here. So if I drag this, you will see once the energy, like you can actually see, it's almost like the sun's coming up over the house. Oh, this is interesting. You see this little, why the 4 panels went out? That's because of a vent stack. And when it throws a shadow on the panels, sometimes it loses energy and stuff. So, but that's temporary. But it's kind of neat when you slide this around. You can actually almost see like the sunrise coming up over the panels, and then full sun, and then later on in the day, it will reverse. You'll actually start seeing it change. And of course, you can do this on a daily basis. Pick another day or something. And then we also have an electrical map. This one's interesting. So this is, you can actually see the electrical layout and how our system's actually designed. So we have a combined total currently going in, and each one of these here is the microinverter. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 8 microinverters, and each one of the microinverters has 4 panels plugged into it. So again, if we were to lose one of the microinverters through whatever means, let's say it fails or we get a trouble or something like that, we only lose 4 panels. A string inverter doesn't have any of these microinverters. All of these panels would be strung together and then goes into the microinverter. So if you lose, you know, sort of the inverter and stuff like that, the whole system goes down. So this is actually a better system. This is one of the advantages of microinverters. I mean, like I said, there's pluses and minuses to both. And then we have an installation map. This is nothing. This is just the photograph that I've uploaded into the system. And then we also have devices. So I can click on the DTU, which is the data transfer unit. It's like a little router, and it collects all the data wirelessly from the microinverters and then forwards it here to the cloud. So I can click on that and get details on the actual inverter. And again, we have alarms, and our installer can monitor all of this stuff. So if anything goes down, we can fix all this. If we have troubles on one of the microinverters here, I can actually click on it and do device maintenance. So I can turn it on and off or delete it. I'm going to do that, obviously. And then the last tab over here is the reports. So as I get more data, I can actually generate a report and then, you know, spit it out as a CSV or an Excel file. And then I can stick it into my spreadsheets and actually track it. But anyways, it's a pretty neat dashboard. You know, I'll be curious to see what this looks like over time, you know, over the next few months and stuff, especially going into the summer months, because we're going to be generating a lot of energy. This is really going to start fleshing out. So I have 2 different ways. I have the ones here where it's just strictly the solar system, and then I have the whole home over here, which is kind of nice. This is a really nice device. I do recommend it. There's another one on the market. It's called Sense. It doesn't monitor circuits really individually, but it uses AI to detect load signatures. So things like, it knows, you know, what a stove looks like. It knows what a heat pump looks like. And over time, it learns each one of those signatures, and then it will flesh out. So it's a little different system. I don't have one of those, so I don't know, you know, if it's better or worse than this, but this is what I have, and this is what I like, and this is what I've been using. Right, so I hope this video was informative about solar systems. If you have any questions, obviously reach out, put something down in the comments, subscribe to the channel. I have other videos coming. And thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.